After the introduction to the Jojosi project that we've just heard, I'd like to share some of our recent technological insights from the site of Jojosi 1. The Middle Stone Age, or MSA, refers to a period roughly between 300,000 and 30,000 years before present. It's a crucial time frame in the evolution of modern humans in Africa, and especially in South Africa. The last decades of research have deepened our reconstruction of prehistoric behavior and revealed a series of technological innovations. They include blade technology and pressure flaking for manufacturing bifacial points, the production of composite tools and weapons using compound adhesives, the use of symbolic materials such as shell beads, engravings on ostrich eggshell containers, ochre as a coloring pigment, the first occurrences of bone technology, hints to the use of bow and arrow, and the heat treatment of raw materials. Altogether, these elements of material culture are widely considered indications of modern human and cultural complex behavior. As you can see here on these maps, there are clear regional differences in the density and types of archaeological sites from the MSA in South Africa. One major issue is a research bias towards sites located in rock shelters and caves. This is especially true for the province of KwaZulu-Natal, or KZN, which remains significantly underrepresented. It spans nearly 100,000 square kilometers, yet until recently, no stratified and scientifically dated open-air MSA sites have been documented in the region. By contrast, open-air MSA occupations are well known from other parts of South Africa, such as the Western Cape and the Free State. These sites clearly demonstrate that MSA hunter-gatherer groups inhabited and used open landscapes, not just caves and rock shelters. Based on that, we have every reason to expect similar patterns of behavioral flexibility in KwaZulu-Natal. This brings us to our current study area. It lies in northern KZN, near the town of Nquthu. It's located within the Ladysmith Basin and falls within the grassland biome. It locates 190 kilometers away from the ocean and is substantially further inland than other sites of the region. And that takes us directly into the Jojosi Dongas. The site of Jojosi 1 is located within badland landscapes that are marked by steep, highly branched gully systems. They are geomorphological features that have exposed deep sediment layers and archaeological materials. Geologically, the area is notable for its Jurassic intrusions that have transformed local shales into contact metamorphosed rock types, most importantly hornfels and dolerite. Slabs of this high-quality hornfels are found in large numbers within the dongas themselves, but also at a primary outcrop less than 400 meters away from Jojosi 1. Regarding the history, the site itself was discovered in 1991 by Botha together with Mazel and colleagues. During their fieldwork, they identified a narrow, spatially distinct band of artifacts eroding out of the western wall of one of the dongas. Based on the concentration and condition of the material, Mazel initially suspected the presence of an intact open-air knapping site dating to the MSA. However, the material was never fully analyzed or published at the time. My point of departure was the original documentation from the 1991 excavation, including a detailed horizontal site plan, field notes, photographies, and the full artifact collection. Jojosi 1 consists of a very small archaeological feature, measuring just 1.3 meters by 40 centimeters, with a total excavated surface area of only 0.33 square meters. Vertically, the deposit was also very shallow, no more than 5 centimeters thick. From this small lens, approximately 7,500 artifacts were recovered, including all size classes. For our technological analysis, we focused on a sample of 820 artifacts larger than 2 centimeters. With this material, we set out to answer several key questions. First, is Jojosi 1 truly an open-air site with an intact archaeological deposit, ergo in situ? And if this is the case, what is the age of the assemblage and can we link it to any chronocultural phases? Also, what kinds of lithic reduction strategies are present at Jojosi 1? The next follow-up question is then, can we determine a distinct site function based on this technological evidence? Or, to phrase it differently, How did the mobile MSA hunter-gatherer groups at Jojosi interact with their inhabited landscapes? To address these questions, we conducted both qualitative and quantitative attribute analyses of the lithics from the old collection. This includes a taxonomical and typological classification of cores, but also the technological typology of flakes and blades based on the analysis of reduction sequences. We also carried out refitting studies with the strict terminology of production sequences, breaks, and modifications. As well, we digitized the excavation plan and the documentation, as well as mapping the finds. In 2023, we successfully rediscovered Jojosi 1 during our field campaign using aerial reconnaissance and foot survey. To establish a chronological framework for the deposit, we selected coarse-grained feldspar samples for luminescence dating. Specifically, we applied post-infrared stimulated luminescence and gamma spectrometry measurements on both single and multi-grain aliquots. We took 3 samples, one from above, one directly at, and one below the former horizon of the artifacts. All samples were collected and analyzed by Svenja Riedesel from the University of Cologne. You find a detailed methodological study of this material published by her in Geochronology from early 2025. Let's now turn to the results. In total, we counted nearly 6,300 pieces of micro and small debitage within the feature. This corresponds to an average density of about 18,000 pieces per full square meter. For the larger artifacts, those over 2 centimeters, we recorded approximately 1,200 pieces. That gives us an average density of about 3,500 larger lithics per full square meter. Let's turn to the spatial and general data. This top-down excavation plan here shows the spatial distribution of all artifacts larger than 2 centimeters. What becomes immediately clear here is a strong concentration of artifacts towards the center of the excavated area. Within the sample of the 820 analyzed artifacts, we found that the assemblage is overwhelmingly consisting of blanks, 810 pieces in total, or 98.8%. Only 5 cores and 5 retouch tools were recorded in the sample, which confirms the dominant focus on the blank production at the site. Let's now take a closer look at the cores. The assemblage shows traces of 2 major reduction systems, platform and parallel cores. On the left here, you can see examples from the platform cores labeled as numbers 1 and 2. They show circumferential and semi-circumferential reduction methods with both unidirectional and bidirectional flaking directions. On the right, we have examples of parallel cores. We classified them topologically as Levallois cores, examples 1 through 3. They show recurrent Levallois reduction schemes, again with unidirectional and bidirectional flaking directions. We continue with the products of these cores. The blanks in the assemblage are dominated by flakes, with 670 pieces identified. However, there is also a notable laminar component. 97 blades were recorded. Both flakes and blades include a significant number of initial stage products, such as cortical and core preparation flakes. Among the flakes, we also identified débordance and débordance à dos limitier. These likely originate from core preparation within Levallois reduction methods. Examples here, number 4 to 9 on the right. There are as well significant shares of core maintenance blades, such as pieces with a natural or cortical steep back or plunging blades, here on the left. Cresting in the initial core preparation is only present in singular cases. The shape of the raw material slabs offered already good knapping angles. Interestingly, we found very few examples of preferential products such as large blades or Levallois flakes from the main production phase. To better understand the reduction strategies, we analyzed also the dorsal scar patterns on the blanks, distinguishing between flakes and blades. First, we found that unidirectional and bidirectional parallel scar patterns are more common on blades than on flakes. In contrast, flakes show significantly higher frequencies of orthogonal scar patterns. We then examined how these scar patterns shift from early to late stages of core exploitation. This follows quantitative attribute combinations of length, corticality, and dorsal scar patterns as described by Tosteven in 2012. During early exploitation, they revealed a dominance of bidirectional parallel patterns. Towards a late-stage reduction, there is a continuous shift towards increased orthogonal and unidirectional directionalities among smaller products. These observations demonstrate the Knapper's technological flexibility to detach products until discard by adapting the organization of the core in between. Let's just quickly survey the tools in the assemblage. They represent only a marginal component, 0.6% of the assemblage. Among them are only notched and denticulated pieces. They are characterized by a low level of retouch invasiveness and the lack of any formal standardization. Importantly, unifacial and bifacial points are completely absent. Refitting studies. We successfully refitted 48 pieces grouped into 20 refit sets, which represents about 5.9% of the analyzed assemblage. Modifications were completely absent. Examples of the production sequences are found at the bottom row here. The refitted sequences include 2 times the last operations on a core, but also unidirectional production sequences of flakes. The refits clearly demonstrate the presence of both bidirectional Levallois and variable platform reduction methods. Most importantly, the refitting supports the original hypothesis that the artifact deposit represents a contemporaneous and highly integral feature. To conclude my results, the 3 dated samples yielded an absolute age range between approximately 139 to 106,000 years before present for the artifact deposition. This places Jojosi 1 in the late MIS 6 to early MIS 5. Based on this chronological placement, along with the technological features of the assemblage, we attribute Jojosi 1 to the early Middle Stone Age. Now approaching site function and discussion. Based on the evidence, we interpret Jojosi 1 as a highly integral assemblage of a short-term occupation. The assemblage reflects the full sequence of lithic reduction, from core preparation to blank production, carried out until the exhaustion of the cores. For these activities, the Knappers employed flexible reduction strategies on platform and Levallois cores. The absence of formal tools or traces of any other activities suggests that the site was task-specifically used for provisioning with Hornfels blanks. Given the presence of similar features nearby and the fact that the surfaces of the dongas are covered by millions of artifacts, Jojosi 1 was most likely embedded in repeated and long-term lithic procurement strategies of MSA hunter-gatherers in the region. Looking at the broader region, Jojosi 1 stands out. There are currently no other stratified, dated, open-air MSA sites of a similar age in KwaZulu-Natal. However, when we zoom out to a wider perspective, we find multiple early MSA sites across South Africa that share technological similarities to a certain degree. These include well-known residential rock shelters like Eland's Bay Cave, Deep Kloof, Blombos Cave, Pinnacle Point 13B, and Klassies River 1. They have multiple different designations ranging from MSA 1, early MSA, or Klassies River. But there are also open-air sites such as Unit F from Flowerspaad or Putzlagte with comparable ages. They all match, like Jojosi 1, the general trends of the early MSA with an exploitation of distinctly local raw materials, low levels of retouch intensity, wide ranges of reduction systems with Levallois, discrete or laminar components, and the dominance of denticulated and notched tools. Overall, we placed Jojosi 1 within this chronological term of the early MSA, but we think the site is best understood for the moment as a site specifically linked to and coined by local raw material procurement and extraction. To sum up, we interpret Jojosi 1 as an in-situ preserved knapping site dating to the early MSA. This is supported by the high density and spatial patterning of the lithic finds, the refitting evidence, the technological characteristics of the assemblage, and the luminescence dating results. Jojosi 1 reflects a short-term, planned occupation by MSA hunter-gatherers, specifically aimed at provisioning with local and high-quality Hornfels raw material. As such, it represents represents a so far unique focal point for raw material extraction within KwaZulu-Natal, and an important contribution to our understanding of early MSA land use and mobility in open landscapes. With that, I want to thank you for your attention. A list of references is found in our open access publication, revisited and revalorized in the Journal of Paleolithic Archaeology. You can directly access it by scanning this QR code on the slide.